Hi. The exponential growth of novel coronavirus has compelled us to think harder on many aspects: physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, and particularly educational. If you're also considering why so many of us are behaving in rather predictable ways amidst the pandemic, well, this talk series from WICCI, Haryana Mentoring and Soft Skills Council would definitely be insightful for you. I am Praggatti Rao, State Vice President of WICCI Haryana Mentoring and Soft Skills Council by designation, and a psychologist and founder director of Educoncepts India Initiatives by profession. Today, I am in talks with our very competent and experienced council member, Charushila Narula, who is also the founder director and key mentor at University Connection. Hi, Charu.
Hi, Praggatti. How are you doing?
All good. So, all set to start the cognitive biases in education discussion?
Absolutely. I'm very excited and especially discussing it with you because I know you are a stalwart when it comes to anything to do with cognitive psychology as well as cognitive biases, especially in young students. So let's go ahead with the discussion.
Lovely. So, thank you for all the kind words and let's begin. So, cognitive biases in education is what we bring in today to harvest the best known ideas from behavioral economics and how this is impacting our study abroad options. Well, in this episode, we will talk about cognitive biases. But before we even begin that, let's understand what is a cognitive bias. Well, simply put, a cognitive bias is a mere failure of logic. That's also called as an error in thinking. And this is something which is found across human interactions. Now you must be wondering, why am I even talking about it? And why does it call for a discussion? Well, that's exactly what point number 2 and 3 talk of. What is the major point of discussion when it comes to cognitive biases? If you ask me, they deserve discussion on 4 grounds. First, these are the reasons why we see the best of ourselves and the worst of others. These are also the reasons why we are able to retain certain information because that confirms to our biases, our preferences, and also our beliefs. This also is a reason why we discount all of the information which does not confirm to our biases, our beliefs, our ideas. And lastly, most importantly, this is the reason why we judge ourselves by our intent and others by their action. How unreasonable is it? Isn't it? If that is how you feel, let's understand from Charushila. Are all biases bad?
Well, firstly, very well put about cognitive biases, Praggati. I feel that at some level, yes, we might assume that all biases could be bad. But come to think of it, when we think about people, when we think about the inner goodness in people, isn't that a bias? Yeah, when we say that, if people are generally happy people, or we were born always to be happy, isn't that a great bias? Similarly, when we get into life experiences, don't we always say that, because I have gone through a certain life experience, certainly I will have better perception or better understanding of how to take my life forward? Isn't that a great bias to have? Yeah, so I would conclude by saying it is not always that all biases are bad. It is just that the extremities to which we take these biases sometimes can become limiting for us. They add to the limiting beliefs in our life. And especially when it comes to careers and education and steering our life forward, these limitations stop us from achieving more, being more, and becoming this amazing version of ourselves, essentially.
I so agree with you. I totally agree that if we are taking it to one or the other extreme, they definitely narrow the vision that we have and they also distort the various perceptions, the choices, and opportunities which abound. So, yes, you're very right. So, you are basically uh, concluding that biases can be good or bad both. And I totally agree with you. Coming from a psychological background, I do agree that bias is the reason that, this is also one of these way we make sense of the world around. So whether we are very evolved, we are very intelligent, or if we say we are self-aware, each one of us may be susceptible, or rather is susceptible to this kind of cognitive misstep. Very well put. Thank you. So now let's also talk about who decides the future of education post the pandemic that we are in.
Wow, that is quite a question, isn't it? Because I think education today is sitting at a bit of a seesaw situation. Yeah. At one end, there is the teacher, at the other end, there is the student. At one end, there is the parent, at the other end, there is the principal. At one end, there is, studying abroad. At the other end, there is studying in India. At one end, there is online education. At the other end, one is thinking, even will offline education ever become a reality for us? So, frankly speaking, whatever said and done, like Mark Twain said, I never let my schooling interfere with my education. It's time to remember that. It's time to remember this today, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for your education. It is not so much going to depend upon the school you go to, the university perhaps you actually land up in. Of course, they will somewhere hold an importance in your life, or somewhere define the kind of person you become. But at the same time, take charge of this education. Take charge of the education of your own being, so to say. So I would say, in these pandemic times, or unique times, let's call them, you are going to be in charge for your education. And when I say you, it's not just you, the student, it is you, the parent also. It is you, the woman entrepreneur also. It is you, the apps, the head of the family. It is you, essentially. Whoever's listening to this today, you are responsible for your education.
Well, this reminds me, remember when we were planning this little talk for the parents, a quick one, we also had the parent and all those professionals in mind who are, not able to think right amidst all the chaos which is right now. So, yes, very well said, that the future of education post-pandemic, the onus is totally on a lot of us. And how do we do a good job? Possibly this session is going to help them. Well, to begin further, I also want to tell our audience that cognitive bias in itself is a vast area of work. It's a very big field with, so many cognitive biases which are found, and this is also the reason what makes each one of us different from the other. So today, for the sake of convenience, for the sake of more understanding, we are going to build up on four of them. And we'll also be talking about how we can blend them from the psychological viewpoint into the scenario of education abroad. So this brings me to the first one, Charushila, that we are going to talk about today. And this is also called as the availability bias. So availability bias, if you look at it, this is a mental shortcut which relies on the immediate examples which come to your mind when you are evaluating a topic, a method, a decision, or maybe just a concept, right? And now, when we are talking of availability bias, let's get a little deeper down and understand how does it go with respect to a premium college or a well-known college, and also with respect to knowledge versus Google search.
So I normally refer to it as the Ivy League syndrome.
Uh,
Yeah, because in a lot of ways, what you see happening is that I often get families, who come to me and say, "Ma'am, I want to go to Harvard, Stanford, this, that, the other." And
okay.
I'm like, in times when we used to do this physically, I often used to take out a map of USA and show it to the student and say, "Okay, show me where is Harvard."
Oh,
And
wow.
often they were stumped by the whole question itself. As he says, "What do you mean, where is Harvard?" The whole point is that if you don't know where you're going, how will you firstly make a roadmap to get there? So, and also the point of the matter is, because it's top of mind for you, because it's these some names are always thrown at us as
Correct.
top of mind names, we almost assume in our head that they are good for us.
So bias at work again, right?
Absolutely, a bias at work. So, and so therefore and this whole bias within, you see Delhi students also talking about Delhi University, or
Absolutely.
other premium universities in the country also. In that sense, whatever we know, we assume that it is good. And the moment you suggest to them a college like Bryn Mawr, for example,
Oh,
or a Clark University, or maybe something in UT Austin, or perhaps a college in the, towards California somewhere, whichever, Pomona or whichever, they'll be like, "But I have not heard of this before."
look at that.
So, so the whole point of the matter, I think the what we are trying to impress upon parents and students is good college is not always a well-known college. Yeah, and therefore this is one of the biases we need to deal with, which means research becomes like the foundation of actually figuring out what can mean a good college for you. So if you're a liberal arts student, if you're essentially, let's say, a musician, if you're essentially interested in the arts, if you're perhaps a designer, there could be a whole host of other kinds of colleges for you. I don't want to get into names today. I think today's
Yeah,
session
that
is
can wait for some other
yes,
day. But it's a
yes,
very good input that you brought up because, see, we all have mental maps of the reality and what is happening in the world out there. But our map is the actual map about the territory, is what is debatable. And that's exactly what availability bias and the example you just gave us talks of. Am I right?
in fact, when you also notice when people Google search, top engineering colleges in the world, I
Yeah.
mean, Google will throw these responses at you. And again, once again, I urge and tell parents and students that please do not go by that. Yeah, what is the best way forward is firstly to seek guidance. It is also to reach out to your seniors, perhaps sometimes parents in your own community who have been through this journey with you. Please dig out that knowledge from all of those people, because only then can we get rid of some of these biases. There are so many amazing universities today, for example, emerging out of Netherlands or in New Zealand
Yeah.
or places in Europe otherwise. um, and we've not, and even in Japan for that matter, and we've not really heard of them. And
I
if we rid ourselves of this bias right now, I feel that we'll be able to open a world of opportunities for our students and for our children. And so this is one bias that I would say, please get rid of it today. Yeah.
Yes, because then you are kind of, as I said, you are narrowing your vision, you are blocking your opportunities, and this is not helping you. Just
Yeah.
because you've not heard about it doesn't make it irrelevant or doesn't take it out of the reality. Great. So this was really helpful. Thank you so much. Let's move on to our second bias, and which talks of confirmation bias.
Mm.
As I said initially, it is so important to understand that when we are biased, our tendency gets in such a way that we search and interpret only information which confirms to what we believe in, right? So our preferences, our beliefs, our perceptions around things. So this definitely is another thing which would be able to, with this, I am very keen to explore with you how colleges abroad, are they really expensive? Because the first thing that comes to you get to hear is that you've got to start saving well ahead in time,
Yeah.
right? And the second thing is, yes, a very well put point there, the scholarships. Are they only coming to the toppers or to the deserving ones and others have no chance at all?
Yes. So I was very excited to put this bias here, particularly because I thought this will, I get very excited when it comes to scholarships, because I feel that scholarships and aid, especially coming to students who truly deserve it,
Okay.
makes things possible for them. It
Hmm.
opens those doors which otherwise were seeming shut for them. So Pragati, for me, I think scholarships has been like the cornerstone of my entire college planning journey with students, because over the last 3 years alone, when we've aggregated $45 million in scholarships, I have seen how parents' eyes and children's eyes lit up when they receive that $10,000, $5,000, and sometimes $100,000, coming in from universities. And I really want to use this forum today to tell parents that anybody can get a scholarship. Really
So
speaking,
reassuring.
I'm whispering this because so that I can whisper it right into your ear that yes, you can also get a scholarship, but it's just that you need to plan it. Yes, there is some bit of planning needed. There is also some bit of understanding needed of this whole scholarship arena, so to say. So which means if you're aiming for a country like Canada, let's say, if you're aiming for something in Netherlands, if you're aiming for the United States, UK, there are a number of scholarships available. So there is firstly a college education that fits into every budget. Yeah.
Okay.
So the important thing is for a parent to figure out what's my budget.
Hmm.
And that discussion, obviously it is a family discussion that takes place. So I've had families who walked into the room and told me, ma'am, this is an X budget that I have, and believe you me, that X budget doesn't run into multiple lakhs. It is a small budget. Can my child also aspire for college education abroad? And the answer to that is yes. Yeah, it's just a little bit about planning. It's also about starting early, like you said.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is about actually looking at grade 8 and 9 and 10 to become like your foundation years in order to help you build towards a great college
I
education.
agree, and I've had a lot of parents who, if they are serious about a university abroad, they start working pretty early. I mean, ninth is a good time to work because that's how you kind of create opportunities open up and you have scholarships. I mean, when you are saying, I really want to whisper in your ear, that whispering can only happen if that kind of planning is in place.
Yes.
Well, so I hope all those people who are listening to us, we just want them to move from what they have been thinking all this while about good colleges being expensive or scholarships being difficult to attain. So,
And I want to also maybe because there are going to be some parents listening in today, and a lot of them want to know. Okay, fine, you're talking very generally about scholarships, but let me give you some names. Because you've all heard of Fulbright scholarships and Commonwealth scholarships. Now these are
hmm,
very big names, but I want you to search
hmm,
about names like the Holland Scholarship, the ILOT Scholarship, the Global Scholars Program at Drexel University.
lovely.
Search also about the Lester B. Pearson Scholarship. Yeah, these are just some names I'm throwing at you today. Do a Google search on these names, and you'll yourself start seeing, yeah, why didn't we apply for it if your kid is already studying elsewhere? Or
And you
you
need
can
to
actually
tell them it was their confirmation bias at work.
yes, it was a confirmation bias. Yeah.
Lovely. This is very indeed very promising and very bright a talk that we are doing. And this brings me to our third one, which is called Ostrich Effect. Ostrich Effect, if you look at it, the name says it all. So if I cannot see the enemy, in this case, the enemy is definitely the novel coronavirus, the pandemic. The enemy cannot see me. We have done this all our lives when we want to evade certain problems, certain issues, and certain things that we totally believe in. Ostrich effect comes into play. So, as I said, this is again another error in thinking, and this we are going to talk about with respect to who's responsible for the education of your child. Of course, we have talked about it initially, but now let's get a little deeper into it, Charishila, and let's talk of who exactly is going to be responsible beyond this pandemic.
Yeah, yeah, it's really one of those big ones because nowadays because of education moving completely online, one of the biggest problems that parents are facing, children are definitely dealing with it, is this whole thing of dealing with constant digital media. And very often, I'm sure you're also getting similar parents who come and tell you that I can't get my child off the phone, I can't get him or her to leave the screen as such. But the whole point is this screen that is sitting in front of you is also sitting in front of parents. So,
Correct.
in a lot of ways, when we say who is responsible for my child's education, first and foremost, we as the role models, we need to role model the right behavior. We
Correct.
need to constantly look at ourselves, constantly see when I'm done with my emailing, when I'm done with work, am I still hooked onto my phone? Am I still replying to WhatsApp messages?
Leading by example. That's what you're saying. Ah, lovely.
That role modeling is so so important. More than that, I think what has become important is to also see and spend time with your children reflecting. Yeah, reflection is crucial. The reflection that we see in the mirror every morning is the reflection that we need to have within ourselves. And I'm not talking in terms of any hocus pocus spiritual terms. I'm really truly at the end of the day, dinner time, are we sitting down with our children and saying, and not just saying आज क्या करा, टीचर क्या कह रही थी, क्या हुआ, क्या नहीं हुआ, that test, this test. No, actually figuring out what level of education, what was our engagement with our books, what was our engagement with our environment, what were the non-digital activities. I started maintaining a little notebook of my own where I note down the non-digital activities I'm going to do every day. And
how
so
lovely.
whether it's my gardening or reading a physical book, or actually sitting down and learning some new recipes, I actually have started noting down those non-digital activities.
And
And
you know what? Noting down initially definitely helps in tracking what you have promised yourself. I
absolutely.
understand even an average parent today is very busy. If you look at the environment between work and home, the whole boundaries have blurred big time. So when this is happening, I can understand. Mentally you are so taxed, and your work hours are getting into your family time. But being a little conscious about it, being a little planned around it, I think things are possible.
Definitely.
So very, very well put a point that the ostrich effect is such a beautiful one, and the picture says it all. I also totally agree with you on the fact that if a parent is doing it and they ask the child not to do it, I don't think it bears or gets them the response that they are looking at. So very well put. Thank you so much for this one, and this brings me to our last one for the day, which is the Pygmalion effect.
Mm.
Pygmalion effect, if you look at it, we are, giving our children so much and right ahead of time. We are giving them even before they ask us. So this is creating a lot of a new generation indeed, which is feeling so entitled about things. They feels, oh, I deserve it. Oh, I can have it, just with a snap of my finger. And now when it comes to Pygmalion effect, it basically says, it is coming from the parent, which says, I believe in you. So when it comes from the parent, I believe in you, it's very, kind of reassuring for a child. It works, and definitely it boosts the self-esteem of a child. I want to understand now that if everybody deserves a chance of success, if every story of success can be inspirational enough, and the role of a counselor, how this all this together enmeshes with the Pygmalion effect that we are talking now.
So I have a slightly contrary view to that, Pragati. I do feel that we need to believe in our children, not uh, not to obviously take them to the effect of feeling like superheroes all the time.
Yes,
Yes, to give
exactly.
them a reality check also of sorts, but a good healthy self esteem is definitely a good foundation for any kind of career going forward. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think somewhere that's why today more than ever, I often tell my parents that I will work with your child like a third parent in the picture.
Beautiful.
And so the role of a counselor is really that of a third parent who is actually going to bring in that objectivity into this entire gamut of you reaching the Pygmalion effect. Because at the end of the day, as a mother, believe you me, as a mother, I'm also blinded. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
blinded by love. I'm
Bias,
blinded. Yes.
bias.
Totally
That's
biased
what
when
you're
it comes
talking
to
about.
my kid. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I have a daughter. And so uh, no matter what anyone says, I would always want to look at the brighter side of things. But when there is a third parent in the picture, he or she can actually bring about a slight objectivity. And if the parents are willing, if the student is willing, then there can be certain tweaking and changes that can be brought about. And when I say tweaking and changes, believe you me, I have seen the power of one works magically. I
mm,
once had a student, and because there have been multiple examples now, but this one student, while he was very, very good with academics, yeah, for some reason, he was constantly self-deprecating, in the sense that his all every kind of talk was about pulling himself down as such. A lot of it I felt was coming because of him not being physically active. Yeah,
okay,
because very often we forget that we as human beings are not just the mind, we are also the body, and we are also the energy within us. There is so much focus on the mind in terms of tuitions, in terms of classes, exams, everything is focused on the mind, whereas we forget the body and the energy of this child. So the target that was given to him was every day you're going to get up in the morning and do 250 skips basically.
okay,
Until date, it's been almost 6 months now he's been doing these 6 months of skipping, and 200 had 250 has reached 2000 skips. And he's
okay.
like, ma'am, tell me something more. And I was like, now you need to move to burpees maybe. So the whole idea.
So by the day, okay, okay,
Yeah,
great.
so the whole point is, now this was something that, and as I was talking to the parent, and they said that we would have never been able to come across as to what was disturbing him, because he was as it is acing his subjects, teachers were very happy, but we could see that that happiness was never within him. But
But
over 6 months.
Tansila, sorry to interrupt you, but I do believe that it is also coming from the fact from the environment itself. So,
Yeah.
so many times the parent forgets to reinforce their belief in themselves. The parent forgets that they are more, there's more to, life than just doing for them. So they just do, and do more. They don't be there. So being there could be just a, matter of having, sitting together with the arm around them. So I guess even that, those are very profound moments.
100%, 100%, I'm with you. Because those little occasions, we've kind of forgotten those. And I think somewhere children don't just need always to be pushed and said, oh, very well done, and
Yep.
everything. Sometimes they just need that arm around them only. And
Mhm.
hey, don't worry, main hoon, it's okay.
And I'm so happy on this one. You could bring in the other perspective because when I talked about the entitled, children that we are raising these days, it's coming from a single child syndrome, both the parents earning and having, enough resources to splurge on the child. So I have had, occasions where I counsel children who came to me and said they give me things too early. I mean, imagine coming from a child who understands that I don't want it too early, you know.
Children understand today. I mean, they even understand what their own friend is going through in terms of anxiety or other things. So these terms have suddenly become all, they've come out there in the open. But
Absolutely.
that's all the more a reason that we today need, like a, once again, a third parent in the picture who can put all this in, make some sense out of this madness essentially. In terms of success stories, I would just say that not just in terms of scholarships. Yeah, sometimes you just need hand holding in terms of taking you from one period of feeling down and out to something better. I'm sure you come across in your career also students who are, let's say, fearful of math. Yeah,
Mm, mm.
fearful of a certain teacher also, or something like that. So there are so many ways and means through which you can actually get them out of those fears, and those are successes in themselves. So I would
Absolutely.
say in the coming times, in these unique times, I would urge parents to actually look at their kids, the little achievements of their kids. Today, if they made a cup of coffee for you, or actually were able to create a timetable and finally show it to you, follow a timetable maybe for 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever, or finally get their hands on that book that you were asking them to read, those are little successes. So
You know
don't.
what? I work on a leadership program by the name of I Am I Can, and I give such simple challenges for them to continue with. What is now happening is once one challenge is done, the parent is always getting a little more greedier and want the next thing to happen in a jiffy. They forget that whatever we appreciate, I mean, this is something which is bound to be repeated. If you are appreciating or paying attention only to something they are not doing, I mean, it doesn't happen like that. So I'm glad that you made that point. And yes, these are basic paradigms of life. If we are missing on the foundation things and we are only focusing on scaffoldings, I don't know how this should work. So great. This was a very great conversation. And I love the whole idea. There were so many points where we almost came to confirming our biases around how we are doing our work. But then to end this, I must say that biases are a way of life. These will stay with all human interactions. The only thing that we need to be very careful about is that these biases have to be balanced. Bias is a way of life, how we look at things, we generalize them, slot them so that we understand more about life. But beyond that, if it is narrowing down our options, it is closing down opportunities, it's high time we pay attention to these biases. Any parting shot you have to say, Tarshil, on this?
Um, one last thought, perhaps. A lot of us are considering this year to be more like a gap year. I would say change the terminology, call it a bonus year. It is your bonus year. Okay. So the moment you see it as a bonus year, what do you do with the bonus? It's just suddenly, oh my God, I've got that extra bonus year. So see what you can make of this bonus year. Of course, we at, I'm sure, at the Chamber of Commerce, we are very, very happy to work with and enable more and more families to be more than they already are. Thank you so much today, Praggatti, for inviting me for this talk. I truly enjoyed interacting with you.
And I truly enjoyed doing it with you. And this is Praggatti and Charushila signing off from the WICCI, Haryana State Mentoring and Soft Skills Commission. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Great.